Winter is approaching pretty quickly here. As you might be able to see, the leaves are starting to change color in the background. It's getting a little bit colder out, so I really want to get a good coat of sealant and wax on the car before it starts snowing and the nasty weather and all that. So I reached out to my friend Brandon, who's really into detailing, and said, hey, what products do you recommend for me in terms of the sealant and the wax? So he recommended this Jescar Power Lock Plus for the sealant, so I'm going to do that, and then on top of that I'm going to do a coat of the Colonite 845 insulator wax. So this should be pretty good. I'm really interested to see how these products work, but first I really need to wash my car. It is just filthy right now. I haven't washed it at all since I went on that road trip to Kentucky last weekend, so we're going to wash the car first, do some clay bar on the surface, and then we'll go ahead with the wax and the sealant. So yeah, let's get right into it. Alright, so I'm just cleaning this wheel right now and kind of thinking about life, and last night we were almost in a really serious car accident. I've got the dash cam footage that I'll show you guys in a separate video, but just stuff like that makes me really appreciate the car even more. The fact that I almost lost it last night in that accident, but yeah. Alright, so now that the car is nice and clean, it's time to do the first step here, which is the sealant. So according to the instructions on the label here, it says to use a soft foam applicator pad to cover the entire car. Then you're going to wait a half hour, let it dry to a haze, and then buff it off with the microfiber cloth. And so my friend Brandon recommends using two different ones. You have one applicator for the sealant and one separate one for the wax. So if you're going to follow along with me, just make sure that you get two of these. So let's go ahead with the sealant and get this started. Before I actually begin the sealant and wax application, I just want to do a baseline here so you can see how it looks without any wax or anything on it, how it reacts to the water. So here's what it looks like now. So here's a close-up of the before. You can see that the water's not beating at all. It's just kind of making one big sheet here and just sitting on the surface. So after we do the sealant and wax, hopefully we see a big difference here. Alright, so I'm just going to do a really light coat here. Everything that I read said that you want to put it on light, which will make it easier to remove when you're going to buff it off. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just putting a light coat on the surface. Alright, so I'm not sure that there's any kind of like scientific methodology to this, but I guess the idea is you want to put it on thick enough that it's going to get full coverage, but you don't want to put it on so thick that it's going to be hard to remove. You're not frosting a cake here, so just kind of keep that in mind. If you see white on the surface, I think you're probably doing too much, but at the same time, like I said, you want to put it on thick enough where you don't have just the paint showing through, because then it's not going to have sealant on it. So I just finished applying the sealant to the whole car. Now we're going to wait about a half hour for this to fully cure and dry to a haze, then we'll buff it off with that microfiber cloth. All right, so already I can say that there's a huge noticeable difference just in the shine on the paint. I think that the sealant probably filled in a lot of those smaller swirls and imperfections that were on the surface, so it definitely looks shinier so far. So we'll have to see how it looks with the wax on top of this as well. All right, so we just finished up the sealant on the whole car, so now it's time to move on to the wax. So the difference with the wax is, remember when we did the sealant, we did the whole car all at once? Well, with the wax, it says to work in 2-foot sections, and as it dries to a haze, you just buff it off as you go. So let's get started with this. So one interesting thing to note with this wax is that it does say that it's flammable, so you know, don't smoke a cigarette while you're doing this and have your whole car like burst in a big ball of flame, so just be aware of that. Alright, so I just finished up the sealant and the wax. We just buffed it all off, and I have to say this is probably the best that my car has ever looked in the whole 3.5 years that I've owned it. It's kind of a shame that it's almost winter, so pretty soon it's going to be covered in salt and everything else, but the whole point of doing the sealant and the wax is it should make all that stuff a lot easier to wash off, especially when I go to the quarter car wash, because pretty soon I won't have the opportunity to hand wash the car here in the driveway, so being able to just spray this stuff off with the hose is going to be really helpful. So take a look around the car, you can see just how shiny it is, and yeah, I'm just so impressed with how those products work. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please just give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. And then again, big thanks to Brandon for recommending these awesome products for me to use in the video. And if you want to check these out, these will be linked below if you want to check them out on Amazon, both the wax and the sealant. And then also I'll link these applicator pads. These really came in handy. They have a nice grip on them so that your hands don't get sore as you're doing it. So these will be linked down in the description also. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.